Okay, I'd like to call this meeting of the Madison Select Board to order on Monday, March 6, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let the record show all selectmen are present. Consent agenda warrant number 26, 2/13/23, payroll register number 6, 2/9/23, number 7, 2/16/23, and number 8, 2/23/23.
Make a motion, we accept the warrant and the payroll register.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to accept the warrant and payroll register as read. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We have a liquor license. We have to approve a liquor license for the American Legion Post number 39.
This is simply their annual renewal.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve a liquor license in their annual renewal for American Legion Post number 39. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor? That motion carries. Acceptance of the meeting minutes for February 13th, 2023.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes from February 13th.
Second.
All right, a motion and a second to accept the meeting minutes from February 13th, 2023. All in favor? We have 4 in favor and 1 abstention. I believe I was not here. Old business, selectmen's concerns. Mr. Moody?
None, sir.
Mr. Mentor?
None.
Mr. Gopian?
None.
Mrs. Wyatt?
I'm all set.
All right. Items of communication, Mr. Town Manager?
A few things to pass along to you tonight. Nomination papers are available at the town office for the June election. They have to be turned back in with signatures by the 14th of April. In your packets, I put the timeline and schedule for the school budget for MSAD 59. And they're going to be talking about the budget at their upcoming meetings. They've got a meeting on March 20th, and they've got a meeting in April. They hope to have a proposed finalized budget by the first part of May. And then they'll have their open meetings where people ask questions, and then their district budget meeting on May 15th. And they've timed this out so that the actual polls will be the same as our June elections. So there won't be a separate at the poll for the school budget this year. They've been doing that quite well the last couple of years. I had a conversation with Marty Berry with MEW recently, and they are seeking a federal grant to come up with some funds if they were to purchase the solar array that's out there. Right now, that solar array is on Madison Electric property, but all the equipment is owned by a company called IGS Solar. And after a period of so many years, MEW has an option to purchase it. Marty had told me about this, asking if the town would provide a letter of support for their federal grant. So I wanted to run that by you before I work up a letter to that effect. Does anybody have any questions or
Any questions on that?
On those solar panels, they decided how long they can last, and if they don't last, are they hazardous waste, or what's the
I
story?
don't think it's been classified yet. I think the average is about 20 years. They slowly don't put out as much through the course of the years, but they can be replaced, but they haven't been designated as hazardous wastes. Right now, if we were to do anything, then it would go back, revert back. That would be their responsibility to remove everything. But it's been 6 years as of the 1st of January, and we have the option to purchase. If we could get grant money, then it would be even more feasible for our ratepayers.
Marty, what do you do when this lifeline comes down so it's not effective? Will you replace panels or what have you?
You can replace them, yep, as they, less production.
Yeah. Are they expensive?
I don't know.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, so we'll ask Tim to put together a letter, and we can sign it, or he can sign it.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, anything else?
That's all I have for
On the election, we have 2 selectmen seats that are coming open.
Correct.
We have how many on the school board? Just so
There's
people
two
get an-
on the
two
school
on the school board.
Yeah.
Anything else?
I believe there's
Remember off
one,
the top of your head?
there's 2, I think, on sanitary, and 1 on water, and 1 on library, and one MEW.
Good. So. All right, thank you very much. New business, number 1, discuss Beeline cable sale to Spectrum Charter. Spectrum Charter.
So we received documents at the town office about a month ago, and they provided us with the agreement between Charter, Spectrum Charter, and Beeline Cable. According to those documents, they entered into an agreement to purchase Beeline at the end of last year. So Beeline has franchise agreements in many communities, including Madison. And as such, they're asking the municipal officers of those municipalities to consent to the sale. And so there's a document that they provided, it's in your packets, that they're asking for your signatures and approval to consent to the sale of Beeline to Spectrum. There's another part in here that they have asked, which is an amendment to the current franchise agreement. When you're consenting to the sale, Spectrum is bound by the same franchise agreement that we just updated with Beeline last year. There's a provision in the current franchise agreement that says Beeline shall maintain its offices and function in Madison, or shall maintain an office located reasonably near Madison. Spectrum doesn't plan on doing that. They have their own locations around the state, so they're asking that we remove that provision as an amendment, basically, and change the language to say the grantee shall maintain a business office in Maine, which will be open to the public from 10 to 5, Monday through Friday. So that's what's before you for your consideration.
So what happens if we don't agree to that second one?
Well, I did ask that question to Cameron Farrat, who is the attorney representing this transaction. According to the franchise agreement that you're in, you don't have the option to refuse a reasonable offer. So if a like company wants to buy another like company, that seems to be reasonable. Spectrum has the capacity, Spectrum has the ability to carry on what Beeline has always done. If it came to you and it didn't pass the straight face test, you know, if like Burger King was going to buy it, then that doesn't make any sense. But in this case, since you're going from one provider to another, the town really doesn't have a whole lot of options unless you want to contest it and then get tied up in legal battles in this regard.
Sure, go for
On these housing, like, we have the house here in Madison, Beeline Cable. Where is the nearest one house where they keep their trucks and stuff, so in case something happens, we could get,
So I'm going to defer. Cameron, if you could unmute. We're going to get a couple of questions here, and I didn't know if you heard that. One of the questions was, is Spectrum going to continue to utilize Beeline's location as far as they send their trucks out and so forth, or where are their trucks going to come from if they have to respond to a repair?
So, sorry, I'm Cameron Rosen, attorney from Freddie Player, representing Beeline Cable. This transaction was Tim mentioned. So my connection isn't the greatest, so let me know if I'm breaking up here. Essentially, the issue with the Madison office is that the physical purchase agreement between Beeline and Spectrum Charter. So Spectrum's not going to maintain the existing physical location that Beeline has. They're going to switch to regional operations. and have service providers located throughout the state. So the physical office locations are going to be in, I believe, Waterville, Augusta, and I think maybe Paris. But I don't believe there's plans for an actual physical office location in Madison. But there would be service providers located regionally throughout the state that would be able to provide comparable service response times.
So, am I understanding you to say, Cam, if they had a service issue in Madison, the nearest service center to send a truck would be in Waterville, probably?
No, because the service providers would be dispatched from their locations. The physical offices, in terms of like going in for paying bills in person and things like that, would be in Madison, or would be in, Waterville, Augusta, I think Paris.
So, but I guess the question they're asking is how far
But
away,
the
how far,
service providers themselves, the actual techs that would be responding to calls. Sorry.
yeah, how far away would they be though, the techs?
So I'm not sure.
Okay.
Involved with charter spectrums, and my understanding that they're primarily contract providers, so they have the ability to have the trucks at their house and stuff, but I don't know specifically where the dispatches would be coming from.
Okay, thanks.
So we're looking for a motion.
But I should add that, under the terms of the franchise agreement as it's written, they're required to provide reasonable times, and they have agreed to comply with the, subscriber complaint and subscriber service request timelines, which I think in the existing agreement are, that they have to respond to all calls and all complaints within, a 3-day period, which is deadline.
Thank you.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to authorize the transfer of franchise of Beeline Inc. to Spectrum Northeast LLC. Mr. Wilkie.
It's just gonna be one vote here. All this other stuff you had here about the distance and all this, you had a couple pages there.
So there's two places for you to sign.
Right.
The first one is the consent.
Yeah, right, okay.
And the second one is changing the language which requires that they have an office either in Madison or near Madison.
Near Madison sounds like Augusta.
Oh, Waterville. Waterville.
All right, looking for that motion to approve the transfer.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to authorize the transfer of franchise of Beeline Incorporated to Spectrum Northeast LLC. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, so our second one is to amend, our second motion here has got to be to amend the franchise agreement. Would anybody like to make that a motion?
I'll make it a motion, we amend the franchise agreement.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to amend the franchise agreement for Spectrum, I believe. I don't think there's anything we can do about it, moving that out and not allowing that to happen. I mean, if there is, then without going to court over a period of time, I don't see where that's gonna happen. So, I mean, I'm not doing this because I want to. We're kind of caught in a corner here. Anybody else, any other comments?
Just that I agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a good idea to move this out of Madison, but for the town of Madison, people who are gonna be under Spectrum, I think having it in Madison is a logical thing, and it's been there for many years. And I don't see why it couldn't be, maybe on a scaled down way, a scaled down model, still have it there, but apparently it's not that important to them, so I'll move on.
Now,
Studi.
I'd be, my concern would be, if I'm tied into Beeline Cable or this other company here, is if there's a breakdown somewhere in town, I mean, the response time, what is the response time gonna be to fix this? By the time they get the information, they get people notified, and then they respond to the area, I think you're gonna have some very unsatisfied people, but there ain't much we can do about it.
I can go along the lines of my consolidated friends, but that's, I'm gonna leave it alone. Any other questions, comments? All right, seeing none, all those in favor? All right. Opposed? All right, we have 4-1. Motion carries.
Let me give these signature pages. All right. I'm giving you 4 pages.
Thank you all.
Yep.
So hopefully 4 pages make it nice. So there's the signature page, but I know that Mr. Lyons taught me not to sign anything.
I got you.
All right, number 2, discuss single axle plow truck bid. And we have those on your table.
Yes, so you have the 3 bids that came in from the different vendors. Freightliner of Bangor. Actually, I talked to the salesman today. Freightliner has the lowest price. Freightliner has equipment that's similar to what we already have. But Freightliner has the longest time for us to get the truck. HP Fairfield has an international for us. It's the second lowest price. It would be the only truck like it in the shop, in the fleet, but they could get it by this summer. Theirs is a 23 model. O'Connor has a Western Star, that's a 24 model, that's the highest price, but it's also available this summer. So the Freightliner, if you chose that option, and we were able to order it, it would go into the queue to be ready in the spring of '24, so essentially a year from right now. And then you'd have to schedule the time to get it all equipped, so it would be ready for the winter of 2024. So keeping that in mind, the Freightliner option is the lowest price. It is similar to what we already have up there, but you're gonna have to go through another winter with the fleet that you have right now before that truck's available. So I know I had Peter Payne and Bill Pierce up at the shop look over all 3, and so they have their recommendation. I don't know if you wanted to say anything about it either.
No, I would go with the Freightliner, because it's the same as we've got. We've got 2 of them already, and one single axle and one wheeler, and they're all the same. I mean,
Is that, can we make it to the summer of '24?
I believe so. Yeah.
Can make it through another winter?
Yeah. We only use that truck in the wintertime anyway, so it's not like it's wear and tear year round, so and I don't see no reason why it won't go.
So the truck that you're looking to replace is the one that is primarily dedicated to the Weston Avenue part of town. So that's where it does its route.
So that's where we need a good truck. Correct, Rod? Correct.
What are you gonna do? This truck is gonna be replaced. What are you gonna do with that truck?
It'll be sold, I guess. I don't know any.
So you don't have any, no indication?
It's got a hopper sander on it, and it doesn't have a dump body on it, and it's only good unless somebody puts a body on it. It's only good for wintertime use.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
It's a unique vehicle. There was a lot of, handmade work that went into crafting that vehicle, so it doesn't have the compatibility of the others.
It's got a stainless steel sand hopper on it that's been on it for years. Well, it hasn't been on that truck for years. We've passed this sander down the line as we've gone. This truck had a dump body on it when we had it new.
What year is it?
I don't say it's a 2001, maybe?
2001, 2002.
Yeah,
About
somewhere in
A little over 20 years
So
old.
if we are able to get any money for that, that should go back into the capital line up there at Highway.
Exactly. My guess is that somebody that has a logging operation or someone that wants to use it to plow logging roads or in the woods, it would make a good piece for that.
Okay.
All of the plowing equipment on it is over 20 years old. And so it's not like we can take any of the plows off that one and make them fit on another one.
Right.
So it would probably be best just to keep it like it is and put it out to bid, and like you said, take whatever money we get, put it back in highway.
Yeah, yeah,
capital.
okay. The other thing is Peter, is Bill and everybody, is this the way they wanna go, is to this freight, this is their recommendation?
It's
Is
what our
it
recommendation
these
is,
three?
yes. One of the reasons is because we've got, the same way, all the others that we've got up there are Sterlings.
Yeah.
And we had a whole fleet of Sterling, but you can't get the Sterlings anymore, so
Right.
the Freightliner took the place of the Sterlings, more or less.
Okay.
And we've got two already. We've got a new wheeler that we got this last fall,
Right.
and we got a single axle that's, I think, 2 years old or 3 years old now. But they're identical as far as truck-wise goes. If the parts are interchangeable, and I think they take the same filters and, stuff like that.
I just wanted to make sure this is the direction that
That's what
that
we
you
recommend,
people
yeah,
are looking to go in.
yeah,
Yeah, okay, thank
yeah.
you.
All right, so do we have a motion to accept the 2024 Freightliner 108 SD, $107,266?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to accept from Freightliner of Maine Bangor, the 2024 Freightliner 108 SD for $107,266, which will be available in the summer of 2024. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Number 3, discuss tax acquired property.
Just want to make a note for everyone's attention, we've lost our internet in this building. I'm not sure if that's Beeline or not.
Oh dear.
We made it through the Beeline guys. The other
This line
side.
guy left and we were done. You shouldn't have questioned him.
Yeah. All right, so the foreclosure date was officially February 27th for people that had outstanding 2020 taxes. So 3 properties fell into foreclosure after that period. And the common denominator between all 3 of them, 32 John Street, 20 Park Street, and 232 Bagley Road, common denominator is that all the owners were deceased. So this is not unusual when you have owners that are deceased and families don't know or they don't act. But I'm going to give you 3 different scenarios for each one of these properties as far as my recommendations. So 32 John Street, the total amount of back taxes owed is just over $3,800, $3,809.92. So that includes the 2020s, 21s, and the current 22s. The man that's living there is the son of the previous owner, and he has told me, as of Friday, he's willing to come down tomorrow and pay the whole thing. They got a tax return, so they have the money in the bank, they can write the check and pay all the back taxes on it. So we'll be right up to snuff with that. I recommend doing that and allowing him to pay all the back taxes and then get a quitclaim deed before the board next Monday for that. He is living there with his family, and so that's my recommendation on 32 John Street.
So that will be something you make a motion for.
Did this include water and storage and all this other stuff?
No, the $3,800 is just his back
his
taxes.
Taxes.
This gentleman is up to snuff on MEW, and he's current on his water. And he and his wife are working on their sanitary bill, because they've got an outstanding sanitary bill. But In this case, I did ask him, could you pay all your sanitary and your water bills at $100? I said, can you pay that all? And he's like, we have $5,000 in the bank, and so $3,800 is pretty much where he wants to be. And I said, I appreciate it. You know, you can just let me work this out with him, because there's really no need for a motion until you get the quitclaim deed. And you won't get the quitclaim deed until that check clears.
Let's work it out.
So if you're okay with us accepting him.
Okay. Mr. Mann.
Are there any other relatives who might come in on this?
No, this gentleman is actually the only son of the guy that owned it. He's got the same last name. He's a junior, his dad was a senior. And that's the only reason he wants to keep this house, is because it was his dad's house. So that's 32 John Street. 232 Bagley Road, that's out in East Madison. And if you've ever been down Bagley Road and you get past Kathy Estes' place, it's the next place on the right. It's a fairly modern log cabin. It's been vacant for many years. There is a garage there that's fallen into some disrepair. The fellow that owned it passed away several years ago. His kids have expressed interest in it, but they all live in Vermont. And they have not returned any of our calls or responded to any of our mailings. I did get some updated phone numbers from the sheriff's office, because they had phone numbers. So that kind of tells you what we're dealing with. But that is a vacant property. My recommendation on that is just give me a little more time to find them, to see if anybody's going to come forward with it.
What's the total bill on that?
Total bill on that is $5,000. Of course, there's no water or sewer on that one. So that, I would recommend that we just wait and see if we can get a hold of, I've just been trying to call and text and leave messages. We've got regular mail that's going to them, see if they respond to it. If not, and you get to, you know, the spring, you may want to just put it out for bid, or put it up with a realtor and try to sell it. It's a pretty decent piece of property.
How many acres is it?
I knew you'd ask me that. I don't have it right off the top of my head. So that's Bagley Road. The third one is 20 Park Street. So this has been a problem property for quite a while. It's been a property maintenance issue for many years, and it's a known entity to the police. They're there on a regular basis. The outstanding taxes are $4,500. The former owner died many years ago, and she left it essentially to her estate. And so there have been people living there, there have been people trying to rent it. There is a lot of drug activity that goes on here. There are currently 3 tenants that are living in there, but they're not paying anybody any rent. They're just living there because their family is connected to it somehow. They have outstanding payments to sanitary, water, and MEW. They haven't paid in months. So I'm recommending that the town spend a little money to have an attorney evict them, because I don't want to do the eviction process myself. I don't want to do it wrong. Ken Lexier said that their firm will do it for about $700. Do the whole process, get it right, work through the sheriff's office to evict the tenants that are there. The second step I would recommend is that we immediately secure the building, board up the doors and windows and so forth. And then as you get closer to the spring, I'm 90% sure we're going to tear this down, or I'm going to recommend that we tear this down. I did have one fellow that picks up a lot of properties approach me about buying it because he thinks he can fix it up. I think once he walks through there, he realizes he can't. So my recommendation is that we move forward with an eviction process and move to demolish the property in the spring and summer. There's a lot of hoops we got to go through for the eviction, and there's also a bunch of personal property there. There's an old junky camper there, there's a bunch of building materials there, there's a couple of sheds, and the rule is once you evict someone, you have to give them 21 days to come get their stuff. So there's a bunch of hoops we got to jump through. This property, 20 Park Street, I did add it to our general liability insurance today. Because of the activity that's there, and it's the town's property now, I wanted to make sure that we at least had insurance on it.
Mr. Moody?
When you mentioned that the attorney will do this for $700, does this include all the services?
That's correct.
Because there's a number of services, and every one of them has a
Right.
price tag on them.
Yeah, I talked to someone over in the civil division, the sheriff's office, and they told me that there's 3 different services, and each one has a $90 price tag to it. And she recommended have a lawyer do this,
Yep.
because the lawyer will encompass those fees into his fees.
If not, somebody from the town is gonna be tied up with this thing off and on, and it's a nightmare. I've seen it before.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'd like to hold off on, I think the foreclosure is, let's do that, but I'd like to hold off on tearing anything down or committing to tear anything down until we get people to go through it and see if they can resurrect it.
I think at the very least, we'll get that lot cleaned up
Yeah.
by the spring, early summer. Okay?
So we're looking for a motion to,
So you want,
Go to
if you want a motion
foreclosure.
to have me start the foreclosure process on 20 Park Street? Or not foreclosure, but the eviction process.
the eviction process.
I'll make a motion that we start the process on 25th Street.
We have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to start the eviction process at 20 Park Street. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right. Number 4, discuss application for exemption from taxation from Anson Madison Sanitary District.
All right, over the last couple of years, the sanitary district has acquired some property in town that really fits in with their mission. We've got before you 3 different applications for exemption, and one has to do with the property at 76 Madison Avenue. This is on the corner of Madison Avenue and Nathan Street going down to the boat landing. On that property, there's an old Madison paper sludge dump. And the previous owner had a very difficult time getting a mortgage or getting anything like that. When he did get a mortgage, he basically gave up on it and let it go back to the bank, and the sanitary district bought it from the bank. So
They
they,
own the whole property with the house too?
yes, so the sanitary district owns that house, and they own all the land that goes down Nathan Street to that sludge dump. So that's basically their job, it's their duties to run the maintenance and care of that sludge dump and all the leachate and whatever comes off of that. So that's what these first 2 are. When it says map 2145, map 2146, that's 76 Madison Avenue and Nathan Street. So that's that property. The other one, map 1947 and 47A, that refers to 26 and 28 Perkins Street. Those are the old buildings that were torn down recently because the sewer line runs right underneath one of those buildings. So that sewer line was broken, needed to be repaired. The owner of the properties was willing to deed it over to the sanitary district. They tore down the buildings and they've been able to maintain the sewer line there. And they have no plans of selling that lot because the sewer line and storm drain line runs right through that lot. So they plan on keeping that lot. So what they're asking you as a quasi-municipal entity to release them from paying any property taxes. They have been paying the taxes on that property at 76 Madison Avenue for the last couple of years. They're not asking for an abatement, they're not asking for any money back, as far as I know. They're just asking to be exempt going forward.
All right. Looking for a motion.
I make a motion, we let them keep the land.
Exempt the taxes.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second to Madison needs the sanitary not to pay taxes on exemption on map 21, lot 46, map 21, lot 45, and map 19, lots 47 and 47A. So if these go back, if these end up, the one on Madison Avenue and Nathan Street, if that goes back in, they sell that, it will go back on the rolls as tax property.
Well, the only feasible way I see that happening is if they have to do a land split and just sell the house.
Yeah.
Because the sanitary district will always have to own that sludge dump, because they're the only ones really responsible to take care of it. So, and really, I wouldn't want to put that.
So that's gone along with the house for,
That's always been taken to that house for years.
so that hasn't always been the case, so now they're just basically accepting responsibility?
That's correct, right. When it came up for sale out of foreclosure, that's when I believe the sanitary district said, we need to own this, and they did that. If they wanna, I don't know if they use that property for a little bit of storage, but.
They're not gonna if they do anything, they're gonna tear down the building.
Okay.
They're not the garage part, but the other one. And once you step out a yard or so, it's pretty close to where they dumped everything.
Yeah.
So it's almost right in the house when they built the garage.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. All right, number 5, budget review, payroll.
So, what I provided in your packet is this small print, one-pager that refers to current payroll and proposed payroll in the budget. I would like to reiterate that I recommend that we prepare for a line-by-line review of the budget at the next meeting on March 13th, a week from tonight. And so in your mailboxes, you should have received a trio expense sheet and these legal-sized budgets that have the proposed budget in it. I'll be glad to take any questions on this tonight, but really, I would expect to do a line-by-line on Monday. So,
You don't have one, though?
I do. Did you get it out of your box today?
I got the other one, the older one.
Okay. So anyways, if it's okay with the board, I would just like to focus on the numbers as far as payroll, to get an idea of what direction that we're going in. So, there's a couple of things that have happened recently that have been helpful to put all this together. We have I've recommended that for most of our full-time workers, non-union, a 5% increase this year. And that's in line with about 30 municipalities that were surveyed as to what they're doing this year. Last year, we did pretty much a $1 increase across the board for many of our full-time workers. And so this is not that dissimilar to that. We have, and I've shared this information before, our 2 salaried positions, which are the town manager's pay and the road commissioner's pay. There's concerns that that's falling behind what's competitive in our area. So what I've provided here is a recommendation, 10% increase to the town manager pay, which will move that from just under 75,000 to about 82,000. I did a combination on the road commissioner's estimate where I did a 5% increase, but then I also added $1, so that works out to about an 8% increase from 66,500 to just under $72,000. So those are my proposals for those 2 salaried positions. Before I go any further, does anybody have any questions at this point? Comments? I'm going to jump around a little bit here. We do have an agreed to collective bargaining agreement that won't go into effect until July 1st. but the highway department took into consideration that the town gave them a $2 increase at the beginning of this fiscal year. So they've agreed to a 3% increase in the next fiscal year, and then the next 2 years are 4% and 4%. Library is a 5% across the board. Code enforcement was $24 an hour this year, I bumped that to $25 an hour. Animal control was 16, I bumped that to 17. Fire department was 17, and I met with Don and Dan and Marty, and they're recommending a competitive bump from $17 to $21 an hour. They're thinking, their rationale was for the life and safety of the people that are putting their lives on the line, their pay should be closer to what highway department is getting. So those are the recommended changes that have been factored into the budget.
Tim, when you showed us that you're looking at the overall budget to go up 10%.
Yep.
How much of a percentage is this of that?
So the biggest increases to the budget, and the budget I think is going up 300 and some thousand in the recommended budget.
Right.
And the biggest increase to that is the change in police coverage. That's over 100,000. Storm drains, sanitary, that's up 50,000. Code enforcement, if we go with the full-time code enforcement, it's 30,000. So those three are 180, and probably another 120, 130 are the combined salary increases. So it makes up, to answer your question, makes up about half of that 10% increase.
10%. I don't begrudge our employees getting an adequate range. And in saying that, at the same time, it's a catch-22. I don't know, I don't think the taxpayers would be happy, you know, showing a 10% increase in their taxes.
Right.
So somewhere along the line, after we leave this area here, we gotta do some cutting to somewhat be fair to the taxpayers out here, because, I mean, 10% bump on your property taxes is gonna be substantial for some of these people, and they're not gonna like it. So we gotta do something. I mean, we entertained that when we were dealing with the mill, and we took 1 year that we did kind of cut things down because of anticipation of we might be spending a big chunk of money if we lost things in the court battle and stuff. But I think we need to make a real urgent commitment to try to cut something, you know, bring that percentage down a little bit, just to show that, you know, that we are thinking of the taxpayers, and at the same time, I also understand, and I don't think a lot of our people understand either, that as far as a mill rate, this town right here is on the bottom of the spectrum compared to the towns around us.
How do you mean?
As far as our mill rate goes.
That it's lower than the town
Yeah.
average?
It's not higher than the towns that are around us. I don't believe so.
No, we're higher than Anson. I read Anson's town report.
Yeah, but
Their mill rate's 18.
Yes,
Skowhegan's is 17, ours is 18.5.
yes,
So, I mean, it's competitive, and that's where I've always strived to be, is competitive.
it is.
I don't want to be 25 if the neighboring towns are 18.
Right,
So if we can all maintain that.
yeah.
The trouble with the mill rate is valuations. That's what's driving the mill rate right now, is home sales and valuations. So, the other thing I'll add here is
Where do we stand as far as our 90% evaluation?
you're gonna have to raise valuations at least 10% to get into the 90s. You're at 78% right now.
We have no choice on that.
That's right.
Yeah,
You either
that-
lose state funding
That's right.
or, you know, raise valuations. It's a no-win situation. So The one thing that we haven't got nailed down yet is where the school budget's gonna come in. The governor's been very generous in her allocations to state aid education. That may benefit the school district this year, but I'm sure their costs are gonna be up with everybody else. Somerset County's already told me that they're expecting their costs to be up at least 10%. Now, Somerset County has a very small impact on our mill rate. The school has a huge impact on it.
Sure, yeah.
But I think before we look at cuts, we have to look at what our budget is. We have to look at next week, we'll look at what the budget is going to be. And then what do we need to be to get us through the year? I mean, we jump to the mill, and we do it every year, so it's not nothing new, but we jump to the mill rate. And the mill rate has never, in my time doing this, has never come out what we say it's going to be at the very beginning. When we get to August, the mill rate is the mill rate.
Right.
So I just think we have to, what we need to be a viable town, I think, before we start cutting. And if there's something there that we don't need, then let's cut it. But I think we have to wait at least to look at the budget as a whole first.
So that's why I do think it's a good idea to do this line by line next Monday, because then we can get your direction as a board as to where you want to go before we get to the budget committee meeting in April.
Any other comments on
Some of these people have only been working for us for a couple months, right?
That's correct.
And don't you think a $2,000 raise kind of hefty for the first 2 months?
Help me out here, how do you mean a 2,000?
Well, the current annual is, for example, like administrative assistant, 40,000 is gonna go up to 42. Frank,
That's 5%. So,
yeah, what I'm saying, but it's a $2,000 increase, right?
Yep.
Don't you think that's a lot for just a new person you just hired?
Not necessarily in this market, because when I hire these people, the first thing they ask me is, will I get a raise in 6 months? So if I brought them on at $20 an hour, they're expecting to be at $20, $50, $21 an hour within 6 months. And that's happened to me multiple times. So I think it's fair. I mean, I think it's fair across the board.
But it's not $2,000.
The way I approach it is 5% across the board. To me, that's easier than trying to justify, you get this, and you get this, and you get this. And I've never been a fan of merit-based, because that's always going to be, an argument.
I'm not saying.
But the time, I think in this, we've had people that have come to work for us for less than the job they left. So I appreciate that, but at the same time, I think the easiest way to approach it is that 5% across the board.
Well, this is something I'll have to talk about.
Right. Any other questions?
Now, you gotta consider too, is it cheaper to pay them a little bit more than train them and then let them go to another town?
We've always done that. Look at your history.
So it's easier to pay them the 5% now and make up
That's right.
and keep them. Costly.
All right, we don't need any more on payroll, we all set, moving forward.
I just give it to you as information, and that's, if you want to talk more about it. Yep.
All right, select board concerns, Mr. Moody?
Yeah, I have a couple.
Okay.
I got a phone call and somebody was inquiring why we're plowing a private drive up on the corner of Wedge and Weston Avenue and have been doing it all winter.
Well, that's the first I've heard of that we've been doing it all winter. Are you familiar with that?
Well, a number of times anyway, they were stipulating
So the
that.
only thing that came to my attention and Peter's attention this weekend on Saturday was during the storm, the worst of the storm in the morning, there was an individual that needed to get an ambulance into their mother's house up on Holton Street, Weston, that area.
Yeah.
And so the part-time driver that we have covering that part of town did that for him, plowed out that driveway so the ambulance could get in. That's the only instance that I'm aware of.
That was on East Holton.
East Holton Street.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about the one on the corner of Wedge and Western Avenue, that's a vacant house.
You're right. I know exactly where it is, and I've seen you do it.
And the town's been plowing it.
We'll have to
I'll
talk to.
investigate some more, have some proof.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because there's neighbors, not only Mr. Kilkenny, there's other neighbors that have recognized seeing the town plow in there more than once.
He goes in there and backs up and turns around, goes back on Wedge Street, then goes back down, towards the light on Western Avenue.
Yeah, because that's pretty much a vacant building.
It is, the guy's repairing the place.
The only thing I can figure out is that he's using that.
He's using it as a turnaround.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
It must be what it's being
Would you look
for.
into it, Peter?
I will,
All right,
I will.
all right, because I don't want townspeople saying, if you're plowing this one, you can come plow mine.
He must be using it for a turnaround. We
Okay.
use the old, of course, nobody lives here, but there's a spot down here on the Father All Road with, there's a paved driveway in there, we use that as a turnaround.
Yeah, but Peter, why would he use that turnaround if he's driving into it with his plow, both plows down the wing and plow, and then backing out of there?
And turning around, going back the other direction.
Right, and going back in.
And he's probably hooking off is what he's doing, but I don't know,
But he has to put his driveway to it?
I don't know, this is the first I've heard about it.
I've seen him 3 or 4 times do it. There's a big glass, big stone,
Let's look into it.
which is none of my business, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
If it's necessary, then I think we need to, if we're doing that, then we better contact that. We better contact the person that owns the house and let them know we're doing that.
Dumping.
Yeah, yeah, so they, yeah,
So,
I think that's something we ought to do if we're doing it.
oh, yeah.
Mr. Mooney? Thanks. Good.
Oh, that's it.
That's good, okay.
Either that, I lost my mind.
Yeah.
Again.
I just have, Mr. Gopin, sorry. The flags at the playground,
Yeah.
can we get those repaired for the spring?
Yeah,
Especially the main flag, the main flag is
I've
done.
been waiting for Campbell's or Rennie's to get a main flag.
Yep,
I think they've got one.
okay.
They make some good rugged ones right there at Skowhegan
Yeah, I know.
that'll last.
Yeah. They make the main one?
Yes.
The, I didn't know if the Legion was involved or somebody, because I know they put that monument up there. That's something,
I can check.
they might have one somewhere.
A main flag?
Yeah, maybe not a main flag.
I'll check.
Okay, that would be good if we can get those at least by spring.
Oh, yeah.
And the other thing that I have, and Peter can help me, but on 148, hiring that they did is extremely dangerous. I mean, is there any way we can ask the DOT to come back and, I mean, I know their paving of that is not until at least 24, if I remember right. I mean, you know, you hit those things and, I mean, maybe I gotta slow down a little bit, but, you hit those things and it almost puts you airbound.
It does move you as you
Yeah,
go across.
I mean, I think there's some of those that are a little dangerous. If we could get them to do something this spring or this summer.
I can
What can you do?
certainly, we can certainly ask over at the Wilton office, because that's the one that, you know, dictates what happens over here. Mark Hume, who was always a good contact there, he's moved on to Augusta, he's taken a position further up in DOT, so they're working to replace him.
Yep.
I think it's unlikely that you'll see any paving this year.
And just somehow fix or make them even them up a little bit or something. I mean,
Maybe grinding, yeah.
I don't know if it's, maybe I'm overstating it, but I think they're very dangerous to my driving.
The only problem is, if they go out there and do some repair work, then they might push the date back more.
Oh,
before
true.
they do
I guess the point is slow down.
Go down Madison Avenue and Scully.
Oh, yes, yeah, no, I didn't say rough, I said that you hit some of
Oh, I
those,
know.
coming off those things, and you're like, wondering if you're gonna land again. Citizens' concerns. Citizens' concerns? All right, seeing none, we'll look for a motion to go into executive session, and discuss a personnel matter pursuant to 1 MRS Section 405-6A, the town manager review.
Motion to go into executive
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRS Section 405-6A, town manager review. All in favor? All in favor? All in favor, the motion carries, none opposed.